Hello everybody, this is Mike. All right, so I'm not sure what I'm going to title this video, but it'll be something along the lines of what you don't realize about the psychosis of borderline personality disorder and why your relationship can never work. If you are wanting to date somebody who has untreated toxic borderline personality disorder, it is impossible, but you are drawn to it because there is this huge promise that it will work. But the exact opposite is what will happen. So, before I go any further with this, if you're new to my channel, this channel is devoted to people who do not have a personality disorder, who are in a romantic relationship with someone who has borderline personality disorder, or you either have been or are currently in a relationship. And I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist, and I'm not a borderline. I am somebody who has survived and completely healed from a particular extremely toxic relationship with an undiagnosed, untreated borderline. All right, so now here is the most deceptive part. Let's be really clear. Borderlines are incredibly seductive. I don't mean just their powers of seduction. I mean just the dynamic of the borderline is incredibly attractive and seductive to people who have a Superman syndrome. You want to call yourself an empath, a super empath, a heyoka, I don't care what word you call yourself. You're a prime target for this seduction. And what is so seductive about the borderline is that the person that you meet is incredibly loving, extremely open, very inviting, very forthright, seemingly inhumanly pure and honest, authentic. They will share the deepest parts of themselves with you, and they will seek to experience the deepest parts of you. They're very loving, giving, kind, usually extremely sexual. And mixed in with that sexuality is this feeling of love and actual attention and affection. And so they are the perfect woman for somebody who feels unseen, unloved, who is yearning for that deep soulmate connection. The borderline comes along, and the borderline is the ultimate fantasy. And so they are very seductive. Now, once you get involved with them, after you have attached to them, because the intimacy and the sharing of extremely deep feelings and emotions and experiences and talking until 3 in the morning and sharing all of your pain with them and vice versa, and of course the beautiful sex and their seemingly unrealistically perfect, pure, beautiful, unconditional love, like an angel, you become extremely bonded to them. Even so much so, if during that bonding you find out that they've got some pretty serious problems. They may seem like somebody who has some trauma, or actual real traumas, somebody who seems like they have some neuroses they're working on, and they just need your love. This normally would be a red flag, but because of the bonding that has occurred, the incredible intimacy, and your promise of the fulfilled fantasy of the one person who can love you completely and totally, you're willing to completely accept whatever issues they may have. And not only that, but you're now stimulated to take care of them. So your drive for connection and intimacy has increased geometrically. So, set up for then the devaluation, then out of nowhere, not seemingly out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, you will be demonized and attacked, destroyed and devalued in the most intimate and horrible, psychopathic, destructive way somebody could do. Nobody would have been able to do a better job in that circumstance than what you experience. And you will experience horrific trauma from the attack, from the devaluation. You will experience incredible confusion. Your physical body will react as though you are in a war zone. Because that whole seduction process that happens, and I'm not saying that the borderline is consciously seducing you, although they may be. It's just the whole process is seductive. But the intensity of that seduction process and the intensity of your bonding like super glue to them, and that becomes fused with your need to survive. We are wired this way. This is what, if we weren't wired this way, human beings wouldn't propagate. The species would die. This is a process that normally happens over a long period of time with somebody that you've known for years and you've married, and the bond goes very deep. But the process is accelerated because of the nature of borderlines and your predisposition for them. And this creates a very deep bonding, and your nervous system, especially after the intense sex and the love and everything, what it happens to you is that you will lose your ability to operate objectively. You will lose your ability to even have the choice over what you do. And then after they've done this, the damage of the devaluation, which will be horrific, besides the normal things of being hurt, feeling betrayed, the fear of losing the one that you love, the pain of being rejected, but then your body will go through a trauma as well. You will feel like you're dying. And you may consciously know that this person obviously is hurtful, but you won't be able to talk yourself out of going and trying to fix it. Again, that is a survival mechanism because, if this were to happen after being with somebody, and for some of you it does, after being with somebody for years, then the need to fix it, overrides any conscious rationality. But again, it happens much more quickly and much more intensely. And so that makes you that much more vulnerable, which makes you do the opposite of what you would want to say, which is, wow, this person really hurt me, I'm going to back off. Instead, you do the opposite. Because then your survival, your experience of your survival, it feels as though you need to fix this. You need to have them love you again or you will die. Why does this happen? Well, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, first off, borderline personality disorder is a mental illness. So you're not dealing with somebody who is rational. You're dealing with somebody who doesn't understand what they're doing, who doesn't understand the consequences of what they're doing, and doesn't even know what they're doing half of the time. And they have no mental defense. They have no conscious defense against their behavior. Completely, totally incapable. And they are not rational. They are not seeing you, and they're not seeing objective reality clearly. So you must understand that. Now, we're going to go a little bit deeper. So from this, I've got a link below to another video by Sam Vaknin, who explains this, and I found this to be extremely eye-opening. Now, previous videos, Sam Vaknin, I've come to find out, is actually a very toxic, psychopathic individual on a personal level. Now, I don't know him personally. I saw the film the documentary where he's, it's just quite obvious he's extremely toxic and destructive. Having said that, his understanding and his knowledge of cluster B personality disorders is extremely enlightening. So I have linked for it below because he explains it in his way, and I found it very helpful. And again, he's not talking his opinion, he's talking from the results of psychological studies about borderlines. So, if you saw my previous video, I talked about the difference between neurosis and psychosis. So what I've just described in terms of the seduction process that leads you up to being horrifically damaged and attached in a most unnatural way to somebody who is now going to destroy you on the deepest level. You are now in the grips of a neurosis that is being stimulated and intensified by the psychosis of somebody else. Their psychosis, which is damaging you, actually creates a deeper bond that just gets deeper and deeper and worse, and you lose more and more objectivity. You yourself begin to lose connection to objective reality, and you start to lose yourself, and you, for all intents and purposes, become psychotic. There's really no difference at that point. When you're in the depths of this, there's really no difference in terms of the objective reality. You might as well be psychotic because you're done for. And you can't. You do not have the ability to get out. And I'll prove it. By the way, I couldn't. I was lucky in that I had barely enough ability to realize what I needed to do, and I put out a boundary. I said, I can't be in your life if you don't go get therapy for borderline personality disorder. And initially she was grateful and she wanted to do it, and then of course, it backfired. And then, so I was lucky because it created what ended up being the terminal discard. Now, I sealed that terminal discard by then telling her I was going no contact and telling her to never contact me again. And then I went through the process of blocking her on every possible way, moving so that it made it difficult, if not impossible, for her to get a hold of me. So again, I don't know if she would have hoovered me back or not. She probably would have if I hadn't, again, stood up for my boundaries. Had I not done that, the damage would have continued probably until this day, perhaps. I don't even know. But in any case, I forgot what I was saying. So what I've said in the past is that if you get involved with a borderline, there's going to be a final discard. D-I-S-C-I-C-A-R-D. Some people spell it wrong. Discard. A final ultimate rejection. All of the rejections up until this point haven't been final because you get hoovered back in. It might take weeks, maybe even years, but eventually they come around for more. And you are programmed, no matter what you tell yourself, you are programmed and you are waiting. Many of you are in that phase. You have been discarded, rejected, and even though they've told you it's completely over, even though they're dating somebody else, your nervous system and your psyche is waiting and will wait as long as it takes for you to be hoovered back in. And that's because of that whole seduction period. Maybe you weren't aware of it, but your internal vulnerability to a codependent attachment, your internal neurosis, lack of love, which might have been only 2 on a scale of 10, after having gone through that seduction process, you're now at level 12. And even though she's gone, she's with somebody else, you don't know where she is, you're patiently waiting for him or her to hoover you back. You tell yourself you're never going back. You're done. I will have nothing to do with her. And then the phone rings and there you are, which is why you must go no contact. It's just like a drug. There's no difference. If you're addicted to heroin, you have to go cold turkey. If you're an alcoholic, you can't have a sip of a beer. You can't ever drink again. If you've been seduced, you can never, ever have that borderline in your life ever again. Ever. I don't care who you are. All right, so now why? I've told you now the understanding of why you can't let go. But now let me explain to you why the final discard will come. In other words, there's going to come a point, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe 6 months, it might be a year, it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, it might be 20 years, it might be 30 years. But at some point with the borderline, unless they get therapy and learn how to manage their symptoms, which is very rare, unless that happens, you are guaranteed you will get the final rejection. And it will be the worst experience you've ever had. The worst. And let me explain to you why. I've given you my understanding, which I believe is accurate in other videos. But now let's talk about this one. So the way it was described was that borderlines and narcissists, because of their personality disorder, they relate to internal objects, which means that when they meet you, they immediately assess who you are. They make a decision immediately about who you are. Right or wrong, they take a picture of you, a snapshot. They make an assessment. And then they burn that into their brain. That's who you are. Then from then on, they relate to that internal experience of you, that judgment. If they decide you are the perfect person for them, that gets printed, and that's now an internal object. When I was explaining to you about what psychosis is versus neurosis, psychosis is that the person with the personality disorder, their reality is based on their beliefs of their hallucinations, the way it was put. Vaknin calls it internal object, but it's the same thing. He means the same thing. It means the hallucination. So they see you, they then take a picture of you, put that in their brain, and then they dress that picture up in their fantasy. The borderline turns you into immediately into the savior, into the knight in shining armor, turns you into a god, turns you into something amazing, and then that picture is stuck in there. That's who they relate to. They still relate to you outside of that, but they go back and forth between the two. But eventually, they will stop relating with you and relate only to the hallucination of you they have inside of them. Now, apparently that's different with narcissists. I don't understand narcissists nearly as well as I do borderlines, but apparently that internal object thing that goes on with narcissists is a little different, but it's basically the same idea. Both of them are operating under not objective reality. They don't see you. They never ever see you for who you are. This is called projection. Or transference. They never see you for who you are. So stop trying. This is one of the things you have to burn into your brain. You're with a borderline and you ask questions like, why did they do that to me? I love them so much. Did they ever love me? Did they ever realize how much I love them? Did they ever feel my love? Those are all things you ask about a rational person who doesn't have who isn't dealing with a hallucination, an internal fantasy, an unreal object that doesn't exist. That's what you ask about somebody who doesn't fit in that category. When it comes to a borderline, you don't waste your time asking these questions because they don't apply. Because the answer to all of those questions is no. The borderline has never loved you because they've never seen you. They don't remember your love because they fantasize about anything and everything you do. Every judgment they have on you is based on their internal fantasy of you, not on what you actually do. Did they ever feel my love? Was any of this important? The answer is functionally no. Yes, they may have felt love. Yes, they may have been with you and loved you. Yes, they may have had those feelings temporarily. But from a functional standpoint, the answer is no. Because they don't have object constancy. They don't have accurate memories of reality. They don't remember sequentially what happened from one day to the next. And they've never seen you for who you are. And they never will. They don't have the ability to see objectively. So now, what is it that happens? This I found incredibly enlightening. And I think this is important for you to know. And again, the point of my channel is to give you the ability to separate. Because I know what happened. I know you got seduced into a Velcro connection to your soul, a super glue connection that you can't shake. You can't walk away from it. I know. I couldn't either. The only reason I was able to, like I said, was because I barely put out, a boundary which stimulated her to discard me, which then gave me enough of a window to get the hell out. But had she been the slightest bit cooperative and stayed with me, I wouldn't have left. I'm just being straight with you. I want you to do better than me. I want you to have the ability to get the hell out. I want you to know what I didn't know. Other than I knew the same thing as you, I couldn't leave no matter how hard I tried. Let me read a comment because this is just incredibly accurate. This person is clear about what they're doing, but they're gone. They're getting pulled into that black hole and they know they can't get out. Truth is they could. Every one of us could if we just took one action. This is what, if you do the four things, you go no contact, you get a therapist, you go to Coda, work the steps, meditate. If you do that, you will eventually get the strength to get out of the black hole. But you don't know that yet. So this person says, I'm full-blown codependent, excruciating pain, but I won't leave my baby. I love her too much. 16 months of hell. She dumped me recently, told me goodbye, then picked me up 15 minutes later. I've lost 80 pounds, insomnia, etc. I say, you won't leave or you can't leave. He says, I don't want to leave. I'm going down with the ship. I said, if you continue with your strategy, my prediction is that she will discard you in the worst way that you cannot even possibly imagine yet when she's done with you. You won't go down with the ship. The ship will toss you overboard to be devoured by the waiting sharks. To which he replies, I believe you. I'm about to sacrifice my 25-year marriage for this woman. I'm 58 years old and I'm gambling everything I have. She might hurt me really bad and leave me alone in life. And I say, it's not a gamble. It's a sure thing. She will destroy you and then discard you. Guaranteed. Remember that I told you so. Now, that is exactly how I felt. This guy's conscious. At least he knows he's committing suicide. At least he's not trying to tell himself, like many of us do, oh, it'll be okay. He still has hope. And this is the terminal hope. Like I said, it creates in you the need because your physical survival, now your nervous system is telling you, you must make it right with her or you will die. You can't back out now. You've committed forever. She is your life. You must get her to love you or you'll die. And so you, against all of the if there's any rationality in you, against anything that's rationally left in you, you still make it work. Even as you're telling yourself you're never going to do it, she calls you, you go running back to her. And you have hope. Because this time you're almost there. Because as you know, what happens is they love you, you get close, You've talked to her about what she did and what happened, and she apologizes maybe, or she gaslights you and you take responsibility. Either way, doesn't matter. She might take full responsibility. It doesn't mean anything. You're sorry, she's sorry, somebody's sorry, but you come to some resolution, and this time you're going to fix it. She's determined. She's right there with you in that delusion. This time, now I understand. Now we can make it work. Now we know what to do. Before, we didn't understand. I have this problem. You had that thing. And then we worked it out. And then you go, finally, your nervous system goes, I can relax. It's going to be okay. She's going to love me. I'm not going to die. And you say to yourself, we've resolved it this time. And this is so much better. We're so much deeper. We understand each other so much better than we did the last time. This time will be it, and all of a sudden this time isn't it. She splits on you again, rejects you, destroys you, abuses you, accuses you of things you didn't do, cheats on you, whatever the hell she does. It destroys you even more deeply than before, but you are bonded, trauma bond. You are bonded and you can't leave, and you tell yourself, I almost did it. This time we almost did it. This next time will be the one. I can feel it. This is going to be the one. And that will be your life for however long the relationship lasts, until the vulnerability gets to such a level where you are so neurotic that you are mirroring her psychosis, that your neurosis has built to such a level that it's on an equal par with her neurosis. Her psychosis. And when she sees herself in you, she sees how damaged, destroyed you are, she will hate you. And then she will discard you forever. And there will be no hoovering. And when you are this time when you're discarded, it could literally destroy you. This is guaranteed. This is what will happen unless you have the ability to leave before it gets to that point, or unless you do what I did and you put out enough of a real boundary that mortifies her borderline scenario where she has to, discard you forever. Or you take the opportunity when she's discarded you that you leave, or if you've got balls 10 times, balls bigger than mine, you just stand up in the middle of it and you say, I'm out of here. Whatever the hell it takes for you to get out before that final discard. This is what I want to help you do. Now, why is that? Because I found this very interesting. The borderline, when they take that snapshot of you, they then put that in their brain, which becomes their internal object, which I'm calling the hallucination of you, the projection of you. Once they get past the initial fantasy of you are going to fix me, you're my knight in shining armor, click. Once they do that, that photograph then begins to turn into a demon. In her brain, the thought of you, even if she hasn't talked to you, especially if she hasn't talked to you, the internal object of you begins to turn into a demon. You begin to turn into the most horrific, narcissistic abuser that ever existed. And it has nothing to do with you. It happens all by itself. She begins to destroy you, destroy your essence, and turn you into the worst abuser that's ever existed. And it won't matter what you do. If you are loving to her, then she might say, he's just lying to me. He's manipulating me. He's trying to get me to feel safe so he can hurt me. If you have a bad day and you don't give her what she wants because you're tired, you come home and she's horny and you're like, sweetheart, I can't wait to see you, but I gotta go relax. I made that mistake once. I gotta go relax. Let's talk later. That rejection to her will then create you into an even more evil person. You're now going to reject her, which for her is death. You're out to dinner and you look at your watch. I've given this example a lot of times. You look at your watch because you want to see how long it's going to take before her favorite show comes on, because you've got this plan. You're going to give her a ring after watching her favorite show, and there's, you're going to, whatever. You've got chocolates and champagne, and you're looking at your watch because you can't wait to make her really happy. But because that internal object of you is starting to turn into a demon, when you look at your watch, she then responds to you based on the fantasy, the hallucination inside of her of who you're not, who she now thinks you are. And then she decides, he just looked at his watch because he can't stand being around me. He's going to destroy me. I'm in love with this man. He's everything, and he's going to kill me. That motherfucker. I can't believe that you looked at your watch during our anniversary dinner. I can't believe you did that to me. I remember with my borderline ex, at one point, she was going through this. This was like one of the first times she started falling apart in front of me. I'd never seen anything like this in my life. And she started going off about something. Everything was falling apart, and she was starting to have a panic attack. And I was, in my mind, trying to grasp, what the hell should I do? And there must have been some look on my face, because the look on my face was, the thought in my mind was, okay, just keep calm and let's listen to her and see if there's something we can do. So I might have had a look like this on my face. To which she responded and said, "Don't look at me like that," and got up and stormed out of the restaurant. Then I had to get up and apologize to everybody around, and I had to pay the bill for what we hadn't eaten, and I had to get out. I had to go running down the street after her. She then said, later, she said, "Yes, you got this look on your face, and you started looking at me like this, and I couldn't tolerate it." I said, "I did not do that. I was there. I know I didn't do that. You saw me doing that. You projected that onto me, but I didn't do that." What I didn't know then was that in her mind there was a picture of me that she had first taken, which was me being perfect, and that picture was slowly morphing against her will and against her control into this horrible, evil demon that was going to devour her and destroy her. So all of you who are with your borderline wondering what it was that you did, what did you say? What are the triggers? People have asked me this. Can you tell me the list of triggers so that I don't trigger her? Doesn't matter. The triggers are happening completely outside of you. She has a relationship with the picture of you in her brain, the fantasy of you, in her brain that isn't you, and that relationship is having its own experience. She is having an experience with this fantasy of you that she's created that is now starting to abuse her. That picture of you is now morphing into a person that is destroying you, abusing you, abandoning you, and horrifically damaging her in every way possible. And you may not have anything to do with it. You were off at the store buying her flowers. And while you were off at the store buying her flowers, she's having a relationship with the picture of you in her brain of how, and she's already had this experience, this hallucination, if you will, of you destroying her, and it's never happened. It won't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you tell her you love her or if you tell her you hate her. It doesn't matter if you do nothing or you do everything. It doesn't matter. This is what you need to understand. It's got nothing to do with you. It's happening all by itself. And this is unfortunately her defense mechanism that has gone so overboard, it's created this mental illness. So it won't matter. So stop trying. Stop trying to figure out what you did wrong. Stop trying to figure out, what you could have done. You couldn't have done anything. She has a mental illness, and she has to destroy you. She has to discard you because at some point in the beginning, you're this external object. You're this knight in shining armor that she's projecting onto this external object. And then as she gets to know you, she internalizes you more and more. And eventually her internal experience of you then becomes more real than her actual external experience of you. And so she must reject you in order to hold on to this justification that I've been abused by this man. And if you've been with a borderline and you've heard them talk about all of their exes, they talk about all of their exes this way. Every single one of their exes abused them in some way. All of their exes were horrible and evil. And now if you've become the ex, you now know. You've heard what they've said about you to others. And they've told others how horrible you are. And you hear stories about things that you did and you're like, how could that? I've never done that to anybody in my life. How is that even possible? Well, that's because it's happening in their head. You did it, but it wasn't you. It was the hallucination of you in their head. That person really did it to them. You didn't. But they must, in order for them to try and grasp some sense of sanity, they must kill you, the external relationship of you. They must destroy you in order to justify for themselves that they are the victim. They're ultimately wanting to justify their feeling of victimhood, and ultimately that's all you are, is you are the excuse for their victimhood. If you don't victimize them, they will then invent in their mind a victimization that never happens, and then it becomes your word against her word, which is, no, you did. And have you ever been where they said, no, you said this, no, you said that? I never said that. I never did those things. That never happened. I've had that discussion, with my borderline ex. She'll say, you did this and you did that, and I'll say, you realize that never really happened, right? That never happened. What the order of events that you just described didn't take place. You realize that, right? No, I remember, I was there. You're trying to gaslight me. Okay? So watch the video below. Take it to heart. Realize that what you went through was inevitable and had nothing to do with you. What's important now is the beginning part of this video where I talked about what happened to you. That part you have to heal, and that pain will not go away on its own. If you try and just heal, you can't, because you're bonded. You're bonded for life with him or her, even if you don't see them. I've torn it apart. A bunch of people, they're out of their relationship for 10 years. They're married to somebody else, but they still can't stop thinking about what their borderline ex did to them, what their narcissist ex did to them. They still don't understand, why did they hoover me? Why did they betray me? I still can't get over it. It's because you're still bonded. It's not over. You have to heal. I'm completely healed from my borderline ex, completely healed. It's because I did those 3 things. What are those 3 things? Well, first, you got to go no contact. Means that you have to destroy all contact between yourself and them. You have to make it impossible for them to contact you, not just not contacting them. That's not no contact. You have to make it impossible for them to contact you. Get a new address, throw your phone away, whatever you got to do, restraining order, whatever the hell it takes. Then, got to get to some therapy. Can't afford it? Go online. You can find free counseling online. 2, probably the most important, go to coda.org, get a sponsor, work all of the 12 steps, and then start sponsoring others. 3, daily meditation. If you do all 4 of those things, you can completely heal. If you don't, That bond that you've created with the borderline, and there is no bond stronger. There's no bond stronger than the bond between you and a borderline. You'll never have that again, thank the gods. That's not going to go away. You've got to go in and do some psychological surgery, and that is done doing those 4 things I just mentioned. If you're not willing to do those 4 things, I have no sympathy for you. I have empathy, but I have no sympathy. All right, that's it. Click the join button. If you want to talk to me, go here. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do that. I may stop doing that. It's hard work. It's hard listening to that. But those are available for you now, at least for the time being. That's it, my friends. Take care of yourself. I'll see you when I see you.